भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so we covered up the last section in 7th chapter, verse number 8 to 12, where Krishna describes how he is the essence of everything. And before that, I think we did 6th and 7th verse also. In 6th verse, Krishna is telling about the combination of para and apara prakriti, the living entities and the bodies. And Krishna is the origin of the material world, and he is the cause of the dissolution also. And in 7th verse, Prabhupada has explained in the purport how Krishna is the, he's a person, not impersonal. Otherwise, how he can maintain and control everything. Now in 7th verse, Krishna is telling everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So he doesn't only create and dissolute, but he also maintains everything. So Prabhupada is proving here that he is a person, supreme person. And then from verse number 8 onwards, Krishna describes how he is the essence of everything. Okay, so he manifests as the most essential quality of everything. He enters into everything and then he manifests as the most essential quality of that substance. So in the 8th verse, Krishna is telling how I am the taste of the water, the light of the sun and the moon, syllable om, and the sound in the ether and ability in the man. Then in the 9th verse, he is telling I am the original fragrance of the earth, I am heat in the fire, I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all the ascetics. And so this is how Krishna is telling in 10th verse that he is the original seed for everything to manifest, original seed of everything that exists. And in the 9th verse, we learned punya here doesn't mean pious, but it means original. Okay, so he is the original fragrance of everything. In the 11th verse, he told he is the strength of the strong. And okay, in the 12th verse, then he is saying that Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, they all are created by him. These three modes, they are the manifestation of Krishna's external energy, but he is independent. He is not under the controls of the material nature. So this is how we understood about Krishna's manifestations, so that we can perceive him in everything we see around us. We can become Krishna conscious like that, and we should not become proud of whatever we have got, because everything is because of Krishna, and it's best to use it in his service only. He can take it away in any moment. So we need to realize our position, our capability. It's all because of Krishna. So today we will start with verse number 13, chapter 7, verse number 13. And now this is the next section. Now in verse number 13 and 14, Krishna is telling how the three modes are controlled by him. Therefore, to overcome these three modes, to come out of the influence of these three modes, we need to surrender to him. Verse number 13. त्रिभिर्गुणमयि भावेर एभि सर्वम इदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति माम एभ्य परम अव्ययम्. Mataji, please read translation.
Yes, Mother. Translation purport by his disciples, Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Believed by the truth, ignorance, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me. About the mode and
Mataji, there is a lot of disturbance. We can't hear it.
Yes, Mataji.
There's a lot of disturbance. We can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything. Is it any better, Mataji, now?
A little better. I don't know if some wire or plug is loose or what, making too much
Yeah,
sound.
I'm wearing a headphone. Is it now better, Mataji? Or should I?
A little better, Mataji. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
No. We can't hear anything.
You can't hear, Mataji?
Manish Prabhu, would you want to read? That's okay, Mataji. Yeah, maybe my students.
Yeah.
Should I log
Ma-
out? Okay.
no, Mataji, just try it once. We'll be on mute. I think.
Another time? Should I
Yeah,
read?
Mataji.
Mataji?
Yeah.
Is it better? Any better?
Yes, Mataji. Now it's better.
Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Deluded by the three modes goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Purport: the whole world is enchanted by the three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Every living entity under the influence of material nature has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. There are four classes of men functioning in the material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called the Brahmanas. Those who are those who are the those who are purely in the mode of passion are called the Kshatriyas. Those who are in modes of both passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas, and those who are completely in ignorance are called the Sudras. And those who are less than that are the animals or animal life. However, these designations are not permanent. I may be either a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. But although life is temporary, we do not know that we are going to be in the next life. By the spell of this illusory energy, we consider ourselves in terms of this bodily conception of life, and thus we think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmin, Hindu, Muslim, etc. And if we become entangled with the modes of material nature, then we forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is behind all these modes. So Lord Krishna says that living entities deluded by these three modes of nature do not understand that because the material background is the Supreme Personality. Understand that behind the material background is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many different kinds of living entities, human beings, demigods, animals, etc. And each and every one of them is under the influence of material nature. And all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of Godhead. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, and even those who are in the mode of goodness, cannot go beyond the impersonal Brahman conception of the absolute truth. They are bewildered before the Supreme Lord in his Supreme Lord in his personal feature, which possesses all beauty, opulence, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. When even those excuse me, when even those who are in goodness cannot understand what hope is there for those who are in passion and ignorance. Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these three modes of material nature, and those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so in the last verse, we just saw that Krishna describes how he is the cause of the three modes, but he is not influenced by them. And now here in this verse, Krishna is mentioning how he is not influenced by the three modes and how everybody else is influenced, because they don't know him who is above them. Everybody deluded by the three modes. The whole world does not know me. because he is above the modes and he's inexhaustible. So he's mentioning how, people don't know him. So we'll understand that. So in the purport, if you see the very first part, the whole world is enchanted by the three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by the three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Now, material world, what does it mean? Three modes. And one can't escape them in material world. And when one is covered by them, then he's put in ignorance and he can't understand the Supreme. Okay, so that's what Krishna is telling here, that everybody in the living in the material world, all the living entities, they are covered by the three modes, and when they are covered by the three modes, they are put into ignorance. Their knowledge is covered and they cannot understand the Supreme. In the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada describes how human beings, they can be divided into four classes based upon the influence of the three modes, like Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Shudras. And then as we move down, Prabhupada is explaining, the last paragraph here. So in this paragraph, Prabhupada is explaining that those who are influenced by the three modes, they cannot understand Krishna in completeness. At most, they can understand only till the impersonal Brahman, feature of the absolute truth. But they cannot understand Krishna as Bhagwan. So to understand Krishna as Bhagwan, one has to come out of the influence of these three modes. And how to do that? In the next verse, Krishna is explaining that. Devi hai isha gunmayi mammaya durataya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam taranti te.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation: this divine energy of mind consisting of three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome who have surrendered and to me can easily cross beyond it. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature matter, the illusion is also eternal. The conditional soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material nature is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity. The inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by divine will, divine material nature, although inferior, act wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows: Mayam tu Prakritim Vidyan Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. Although Maya, illusion, is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. Svetashvatara's Upanishad 4.10. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that a conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by the person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be free from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of this paternal affection for the living entity, who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna, Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnation of Rajoguna, passion, and Tamoguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Svetasvatara Upanishad 3.8 confirm this in the phrase Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says Mukti Pradata Sarvesham Vishnur eva na samshayaha. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So this is a very important verse and beautiful purport Prabhupada has given to it. So here the Lord is explaining the power of material energy. And he's calling it my energy. Of course, it is his energy. Mam Maya. No, Devi Hayashi Gunmai Mam Maya Durataya. So this Devi means divine. So this divine energy of mine. So that is why it's very powerful. Because it is Krishna's energy. And the personification of this energy is Durga Devi. And Srila Prabhupada, he explains how Durga Devi controls all the 8 directions with her 8 arms. And she's known as Vaishnavi. And if someone doesn't come in control with those 8 arms, then she uses other 2 arms. So in total, she has 10 arms. So she's catching the demon, with those 2 hands, 8 arms. She's controlling the 8 directions. And with those 2 hands, then if she's not able to control anybody with the help of those 8 arms, she uses the other 2 arms. And with one hand, then she catches the demon's head. And with the other hand, she's holding the chopper to cut his head. So we understand that she is in full control of this material world. No one can escape her. That's why it said Durataya. Devi Gunmai Mamaya Durataya. Dur means like extremely difficult. Ataya means to cross. It's extremely difficult to cross over. So there's practically no one who is free from the influence of 3 modes in the material world. Even Brahma and Shiva, they come under their influence. We know that pastime of Daksha and Sati, how Sati left her body, and then Shiva got so angry after hearing about Sati committing suicide. And then from Shiva's anger, Veerbhadra was born. So Srila Prabhupada there writes that, because Lord Shiva is in control of Tamogun, he also gets influenced by it sometimes. Therefore, nobody is spared of the influence of these 3 modes in the material world. In the very beginning of the purport, Prabhupada is telling, although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. Avara means cover. So everybody is covered with this, this Durga Devi, she covers the knowledge of all the living entities. Durga Devi is material energy, and she has got 2 potencies, 2 Shaktis or 2 potencies. One is Avratnamika Shakti, and the other is Prakshpaktima Shakti. Avran means cover, and Prakshpatmika is the revealing. So Avran means cover. With this, she covers the knowledge of all the living entities. Even though we belong to the para prakriti, the superior energy, as we already discussed. So this, because the metal energy covers them, when we come in contact with it, it covers us, and then we forget our relationship with Krishna, and we try to exploit the metal energy, the inferior energy, and that's how we become bound. And it has been going on since time immemorial. That's why, the conditioned souls are called Nitya Baddha, eternally conditioned. because we don't know since when it is going on like that. Prabhupada is writing, no one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. That's why we are called Nitya Baddha. Okay, so it's very difficult for one to come out of it. And then Srila Prabhupada explains, modes also means rope, which is invisible. These ropes are practically binding everyone and making them dance like a puppeteer who controls everyone. Just like a puppet, we are being controlled by three modes. One may think that I am free, but actually no one is. In the third chapter, we read Prakriti Kriyamanani Guna Karmani Sarvasha. Guna Karmani Sarvasha. These gunas are doing everything, Sarvasha. Ahankar Vimud Atma Karta Ahamiti Manyate. Because of this false ego, we think we are doing everything. Karta Aham. It's not that. Guna Karmani Sarvasha. All activities are being carried out by these three gunas. In the lecture, Srila Prabhupada explains that these ropes are not weak. They are not ordinary ropes, but they are like, three times, you just tangle them up. These are not like weak three ropes, passion, goodness, and ignorance. Three ropes, they are like, what do you call that, braided together. And then those three ropes, that braid, then it is again braided with three ropes. So like that, 3 into 3, 3 into 3, it goes till 81 times. So these ropes are very thick, very tough to, break them. Everyone is bound by the hands and feet. So then Prabhupada is telling here, a man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. So someone may say, then where is so here Prabhupada is telling them, for that we need Lord Krishna or his representative spiritual master who can release us from this condition. And now one may say that, okay, if we are, so tightly bound, we don't have any choice, then where is the free will? No choice for us. We are tightly bound and practically no independence. Then what's the role of the free will? Anybody? Do you want to share your thoughts about it? Everything is being done by the three gunas. What are we doing then? Where is the free will?
Mataji, we are desiring, Mataji. So based on that, to fulfill our, Krishna sanctions and three modes execute to fulfill our desires, Mataji.
Okay. Good. Nali Mataji, you also wanted to say something?
Yes, that is what Mataji, what Vijalakshmi Mataji says. We have choice only that what we can do in a situation. Only limited free will we have.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. But like how we understand, we are so tightly bound that we are forced by the gunas to do something. No choice for us also. So how we understand that is, the example given there is of a drunkard. If a drunkard, he is just after drinking any time, every time. So if we place a bottle in front of the drunkard, he has a choice, right? He wants to pick up that bottle or not. But the influence of tamogun is so strong that influence will make him drink. His choice doesn't work because the tamogun is working so strong upon him. So that's how these modes are influencing us in making our choice also. So practically the independence is nil because that person has been conditioned by tamogun since time immemorial. Even though theoretically he has independence, he has a choice. But tamogun is pushing him towards picking up the bottle, making that choice only. That is why Srila Prabhupada again and again repeats that the living entity has practically no independence in the material world. The drunkard is thinking I'm independent. I'm so free. I can buy a bottle anytime, drink it anytime. But actually doesn't know that he's not independent. He's under the control of tamogun. He's losing his independence and he's becoming a slave of this habit. And to give this up is just not possible for him. So that's how these three modes, they bind us. In the previous verse, we saw that, how Krishna told Sarvam idam jagat. Everyone is deluded by the three modes. Sarvam. So we are being, controlled. We are being orchestrated by the three modes. Just do what comes to the mind, and the mind is controlled by the three modes. So what do we do now? So unless one has some goodness, he has no sense of what is right and what is wrong. So we have to rise to the platform of mode of goodness. One who is bound can't help himself. No? So that's why mode of goodness means we have to take shelter of spiritual master. We have to seek association of devotees. We have to take shelter of the scriptures. Only the person who is free, he can help us. Srila Prabhupada can help us. Because if Prabhupada tells, then Krishna has to order the release. It's like, another example there we talk about is of the dog and the master. If he visits somebody's home and he has a dog at a home, that dog will just come running to the guest to attack him. But then if the guest calls out the master of the house, his friend, then the master will order the dog to just go back, get back and sit down, and the dog will get back. So similarly, the living entities, we all have to call out to Krishna. We have to call out to the master, and then he will order the Maya, who is under Krishna's control, to release us, to get back and just sit down. Only Krishna, Mama Eva, not even Brahma and Shiva, Prabhupada is telling him. Krishna is telling here, Mam Eva ye prapadyante. Only me. One has to surrender only to me, not even Brahma and Shiva. And surrender to Krishna means surrendering to his representatives, following their instruction. Okay, so this choice we have to make, that we know we are under the control of these three modes. We are being pushed under tamo gun, rajo gun, everything day in, day out. But we have to try to be at goodness. We have to seek shelter of all these personalities, Vaishnavas, and we have to follow their instructions. And by this process, we become purified and we can regain the remembrance of Krishna. We can come out of the three modes and then we can remember Krishna. Okay, so it's a very beautiful purport here and very important verse. So these were the two verses which help us understand how these three modes are controlled by Krishna and how we can come out of them only by surrendering to Krishna. Now from verse number 15 to 19, Krishna is talking about four kinds of impious persons who don't surrender and four kinds of pious who do surrender. Verse number 15. Na mam dushkritino mudha prapadyante nara adhama maya aprahata jnana asuram bhavam ashrita.
Krishna Mataji, should I read?
Yes, Mataji.
And is the sound okay now, Mataji?
I think if I go mute, it might be better. Little disturbance is there, but it's better, Mataji. So now this is, it's a very long purport. So we will keep breaking it up. So you can stop, then Vijayalakshmi Mataji can read and you both can take turns. We'll keep discussing it side by side.
Okay.
Please start, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, and those whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Purport, it is said in Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of Supreme Personality, Krishna, one can surmount the stringent laws of material nature. At this point, a question arises: how is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna? the all-powerful personality of Godhead. The mukti or liberation from laws of material nature is sought, is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hardworking leaders adopt this simple method? The Gita answers that question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Janaka, Prahlad, Bali, and later on Madhvaracharya, Ramanacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person and all-powerful authority, the all-powerful authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, etc., but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan and or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy nature is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheists and baffle the knowledge of planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described here by the word dushkritinaha or miscreants. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheist plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, but because of that, any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called Dushkriti, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected. In the Gita is in the Gita it is clearly mentioned that material fully works fully under the direction of Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves in accordance with the movement of the objects. But it but still material energy is very powerful and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works. Now nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord under the illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance. All his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. These dushkritinas or miscreants are of four different patterns as outlined below. Should I
Hare,
continue?
yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. So first, let's see what we read till here. So now, as in the very first paragraph, Prabhupada is putting this question up. The question could be asked that if by surrendering to Krishna, everyone can be released from the clutches of Maya, then why don't everyone just surrender? No? Isn't it so easy? Just surrender to Krishna and you will be released. Then Krishna replies by speaking this verse. And he tells about the four types of people who don't surrender. Okay, so here in the second paragraph we see that in the first paragraph Prabhupada put up this question, and the second paragraph is answering this question, that the true leaders who were like Mahajans, they would surrender, they were the true leaders. But now the leaders or the philosophers or the intelligent class, the so-called intelligent class, they don't accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They don't have any idea of God. They manufacture their own plans and they complicate everything and all that. So those type of leaders and scientists and philosophers, administrators, educators we are having in the society now, who themselves don't know what is going on in the material world, whom to take shelter of, how to come out of this complex situation. They have no idea about it. These atheistic plan makers, then in the third paragraph, Prabhupada is telling, they are described here in by the word Dushkritina. So these so-called intelligent class now are Dushkritina or miscreants. So Prabhupada is telling Kriti means doing some meritorious work, some big work. And Dush means bad. So these people, they have intelligence, to put something up together, to organize something, to plan something. You need intelligence, but their intelligence is misdirected. It's not directed towards Krishna. That's why it is called Dushkriti. To execute something, one needs intelligence. So these people have intelligence, but because that intelligence is opposing the Lord, it's not directed towards serving the Lord. It is Dushkriti. So these people are called Dushkritina. That's the meaning of Dushkritina. In the next paragraph, Prabhupada is giving the example of Hiranyakashipu and Ravan, born in Brahmana family, extremely intelligent. They knew the Shastras well, but everything they did was misdirected. It was against the Supreme Lord. Okay, so here we understand this question, why everybody can't surrender, and then who are Dushkritinas, people who are doing kriti, who are doing some work, but in a wrong direction. Now Prabhupada will be talking about the 4 types of Dushkritinas who don't surrender to the Lord. The first type is Mudhas. Please continue reading. Vijayalakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mudha. The Mudas are those who are grossly foolish, like hardworking beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of the labor by themselves and do not want to part with them for the supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes, but this braying sound only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish fruitive workers who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma, action, is meant for yagna, sacrifice. Most often, those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living being. To such mudas, material gains which are destructible are lives all in all, despite the fact that the mudas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruitive gain, and although they may have ulcers or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working very hard day and night for the benefit of illusory masters. Ignorant of the real master, the foolish workers waste their valuable time serving Mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the supreme master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. The swine who eat the night soil do not care to accept sweetness made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane world, but will have very little time to hear about the eternal living force that moves the material world.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mataji.
yeah. Okay, so this is the first category, Mudhas. They are grossly foolish. Foolish like an ass. Because what's the quality of the ass? Just working hard, carrying tons of clothes of washerman, and not realizing that not even a single cloth belongs to him. For what is he doing that? Getting beaten up and carrying tons of clothes, and just for eating grass. And that grass he can easily find anywhere. So these type of people, they think that by their hard work, they are the doers. They work hard a lot. They can change everything. Like Mudas, they are working hard, don't even have time to sit and eat. What for are they doing this? No knowledge of that. Always running, irregulated eating habits. And then what happens? Indigestion, diseases, ulcers and all. No sleep at night. And what's the use of all this? These people are like dvipad pashus, two-legged animals, polished asses, just asses in coat, pant, tie, and all that. What for are they doing that? What's the good? They don't know. What's the goal? No time for hearing the scriptural topics, for hearing Bhagavad Gita. They are so busy. Srila Prabhupada quotes Ravindranath Tagore here. Ravindranath Tagore, he was visiting London and he saw people there driving so fast. Everybody just moving here, there, driving in this direction, that direction so fast. So Ravindranath Tagore, he said that in London, they are driving so fast and London is so small. Who knows, they may drive into the ocean only. If somebody is watching them, it looks like, what is going on? It's such a small city and they're just going here, they're running so fast. Where are they going? They're going to land into ocean like this. So these people are like that. No knowledge where they are heading to, just running blindly, working hard like the ass for a very simple thing, grass. And these dvipad pashus, polished asses, they don't even have time to eat that grass. No time to sit and eat, just grabbing something on the way and just munching on that, and then having other problems, health issues and all. So that's why these people are called mudhas. For whom they are working, what will be the result, they don't have any knowledge of that, who is the real master. And the next category now of this dushkritana is the nara adhama. So let's read that. Continue, please.
Mataji, should I read?
Yes, Mata. You can take turns. Yeah.
Yeah. Another class of Dushkriti or miscreant is called the Narathama or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being and Adhama means the lowest. Out of the 84 lakh different species of living beings, there are 4 lakhs human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regulated principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially, politically developed, but who have no religious principles must be considered Naradhana. Nor, nor, nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth, man's relationship with him. In the Gita, personality of God, it clearly states it states that there is no authority above him and he is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of eternal relationship with Supreme Lord, Supreme Truth, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who is all powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as a Naradha. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promised to worship him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is the natural instinct in every living being, because he is eternally related to God. But after the deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The 10 processes of reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashrama. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of population is Naradha. When the whole population becomes Naradhama, naturally all their so-called education is made null and void by the all-powerful energy of the physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man who is he who man is he who sees the on equal terms the learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and the dog eater. Those who That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradhamas, the brothers Dagai and Madhai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradhama, who is condemned by the personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is propagating the Bhagavad Dharma or activities of the devotees, has recommended that the people submissively hear the message of the personality of Godhead. The essence of the message is Bhagavad Gita. The lowest amongst human beings can be delivered by his submissive hearing process only, but unfortunately they even refuse to give an oral reception to these messages, and to what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradhamas are the lowest of mankind, willfully neglect the prime duty of human being. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. So here we see in the very first paragraph, Prabhupada has given the definition of Nara Adhamas, those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles must be considered Nara Adhamas. So socially and politically, they might be doing good, but they have no idea about the religious principles. No religion, and without God, nor is religion without God religion. Because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth. So whatever they're doing, karam kand they might be doing, but without the knowledge of the God, without the purpose of reviving the relationship with Him, nothing like that. So these are the Nara Adhamas, who are the lowest among the mankind. Nara Adhama means lowest among the mankind. And yeah, so in the same paragraph, Prabhupada is telling the civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth. So these people are not doing that. These are Nara Adhamas. And then in the first paragraph, only towards the end, Prabhupada has nicely explained that how a child, when he's in difficult situation, a baby in mother's womb, he prays to the Lord. There are so many bhajans like that, please help me come out of here. And once I'm out, this time I will only remember you. I will only serve you. I have now seen, how miserable this place is. I don't want to come here again. But when he comes out, again, he's, in contact with all the influences outside, and he just forgets about the real purpose. And this message here that to pray to God when one is in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being. Why? Because we have an eternal relationship with the God. So whenever we are in some trouble, we feel like taking shelter of someone to whom we belong or who belongs to us, and that is the God. So that's why this is a natural instinct. This also should help us remember our relationship with the God who is very dear to us. We try to share our heart with him or her. We try to seek shelter, help of that person, and that person is the Supreme Lord. He's closest to us. He's our best well-wisher. That's why we feel like taking shelter of the Lord. And yeah, in the next paragraph, Prabhupada is telling that how 99.9% of population are Nara Adhama, because no process is being followed in any part of the world now. Out of these 10 processes of reformatory ceremonies, the sanskaras, nobody's following that. So 99.9% of population now is considered Nara Adhama. And then Prabhupada gives example of Jagai and Madai, who were so sinful. They were Nara Adhamas, but then they were delivered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. So what do we learn from here? That Nara Adhamas, they can revive the spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. So those who have understood who have gained this knowledge, who have understood what is the situation, how the Nara Adhamas are suffering, they have no knowledge about the God or the Mudhas, all these Dushkritna people. So the devotees, out of their compassionate heart, out of their service attitude to the Lord and to their Guru, they try to give this knowledge to others. So that's why preaching is the essence of our organization. Okay, so only by the mercy of devotees, these people can be helped. Yeah, that's it. So next we move to the next class, that is Maya Aprataha Jnana. Who are these people now? Please continue reading.
The next class of discrete is called Maya Aprata Jnana, or those persons whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of illusory material energy. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literary scientists, etc. But the illusory energy guides them, and therefore they disobey the Supreme Lord. There are a great number of Maya Apartha Jnana at the present moment, even amongst the scholars of Bhagavad Gita. In the Gita, in plain and simple language, it is states that Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is none equal to or greater than him. He is mentioned as the father of Brahma, the original father of all human beings. In fact, Sri Krishna is said to be not only the father of Brahma, but also the father of all species of life. He is the roof of the impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. Paramatma, the supersoul in every entity in his plenary portion, is the fountainhead of everything, and everyone is advised to surrender unto his lotus feet. Despite all these clear statements, the Maya Aprata Jnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. They do not know that the blessed form of human life is designed after the eternal and transcendental feature of the Supreme Lord. All the unauthorized interpretations of the Gita by the class of Mayaya Prajnana outside the purview of the Parampara system are so many stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual understanding. The deluded interpreters do not surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, nor do they teach others to follow this principle. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So these people, they have knowledge, but basically materialistic knowledge. Because these people are, Prabhupada is telling, they are learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, scientists, literary, etc. So they have knowledge, but it is basically materialistic knowledge. Because the real knowledge is taken away by Maya. Maya Aprahta Jnana. Maya has stolen their jnana, the real knowledge. So no vidya, actually. They have only avidya. And then these people also write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. But they are atheistic. They themselves don't believe in God. They have no knowledge about God. And that's why these things are then like a stumbling blocks on the spiritual path for others. So even if these people, these Maya Pratagyana people, they have knowledge, but no vidya. That's how we can understand them. And Naradma were the people who don't follow the religious principles. Very sinful people like Jagai and Madai. Okay. So moving on to the next class now. That is Asuram Bhavam Ashrita. Continue reading, please.
So the last class of Duskriti is called Ashuram Bhavam Ashrita, or those of demonic principles. This class is openly atheistic. Some of them argue that the Supreme Lord can never descend upon this material world, but they are unable to give any tangible reasons for as to why not. There are others who make him subordinate to the impersonal feature, but although the opposite is declared in the Gita, envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the atheist will present a number of illicit incarnations manufactured in the factory of his brain. Such persons whose very principle of life is to decry the personality of Godhead cannot surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. The Brahmanacharya Alabandaru of South India said, "Oh my Lord, you are unknowable to persons involved with atheistic principles, despite your uncommon qualities, features, and activities, despite your personalities being confirmed by all revealed scriptures in the quality of goodness, and despite your being acknowledged by the famous authorities renowned for their depth of knowledge in the transcendental science. and situated in the godly qualities. Therefore, grossly foolish persons, the lowest of mankind, the deluded speculators, and the professed atheists, as above mentioned, never surrender unto the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, in spite of all scriptural and authoritative advice. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. So this is the last class, the fourth class, Asuram Bhavam Ashrita. So these people, they are openly atheistic. And because they're atheistic, they are envious of the Lord. They say there is no God, or that God is impersonal, or God is dead, anything. He can say anything about God. They're envious people. Prabhupada is mentioning it, envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They will present a number of illicit incarnations. So if they are envious, then definitely they cannot surrender to the Lord. So this is the fourth category who don't surrender to the Lord. So in this verse, Krishna told, these are the people who don't surrender. And in the next verse, then Krishna tells the four type of people who do surrender. So it's 9:02 already. Should we continue or stop here for today? Matajis, do you have another 5-10 minutes? Should we continue or should we stop?
Mataji, can we continue next week?
Okay, no problem. Okay. So any questions or any realizations from today's discussion, today's reading?
Mataji, the 10 kind of reformatory ceremonies like Garbhadharan Sanskar and all, Mataji. Trade ceremony.
Yes, yes, Mataji. These are the 10 sanskaras. So it's a duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. 10 process of reformative ceremonies as enjoined in the Manusmriti. So this helps us in our purification. When a child is born, everybody, when they are born, they are like Shudras. They are totally in ignorance. So slowly, then, by performing these ceremonies, we come to the level of Brahmana and become purified. So these processes start right, from the time of planning the birth of the child, Garbhadan Sanskar. So this is how it goes till then the last sanskar, the death ceremony. So all through the life, these sanskars are to be performed. So they basically help us, remember God, taking his shelter from time to time at different stages in life, and doing everything what we're doing as an offering to the Lord, sacrifice, yajna. All the karmas then are done like a yajna for the pleasure of the Lord, and that's how it helps in our purification then. So yeah, but people hardly know about these processes now. In India, maybe some are still following it, but we can understand in any part of the world Prabhupada is mentioning. So he's considering the entire world. So people don't know about all this. Okay, so that's it. Today we couldn't cover much, but these are important verses. So how in 13th and 14th verse, Krishna told that he's above these three modes, and how we can, how everybody else in the material world is influenced by the three modes, how we can come out of them by surrendering to the Lord. And then, is the surrendering so easy? No, he's telling about the four types of people who don't surrender, who cannot surrender. So that's it for today then. We'll meet next week. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.